A young man lying on a bed looks around in confusion, unable to understand where on earth he is. He stares at his hand and thinks this moving lump of protein is strange. Fortunately, he realizes the soul of this body left not long ago. He thinks the reincarnation plan was too easy, feeling proud and confident. As he tests his voice, he notices adapting to the local language feels very natural. Moving the body doesn't seem problematic either, but he feels like something's missing. If everything had gone well, he would have had full access to the memories. But for some bizarre reason, he can't remember anything about this body's life. Suddenly, a terrible headache overwhelms him, like everything is shattering. He feels a pain like something tearing his stomach from the inside, doubling over in agony. Falling into despair, he starts coughing, wondering what on earth went so wrong with the plan. He can't even breathe properly, struggling desperately to inhale air with tremendous difficulty and pain. Then the shock of reality hits him, and he realizes this body starved to death. He explains that according to his magic's rules, he was supposed to reincarnate as the being with the greatest energy on the planet. Collapsed on the floor, he realizes he forgot to consider the body's terrible condition. He complains that he thought he'd turn into an amoeba, but the stomach pain is unbearable. He laments that since he just reincarnated, he probably won't be able to use magic for a while. He needs to adapt to the planet's energy, but first he has to find food. Bright light bothers him, and when he opens his eyes, he's shocked by what he sees. He remembers his home planet was liquid, a dark world with almost no starlight. But the place he's arrived at has scenery completely different from anything he knew. His eyes widen at the cityscape and pale blue sky. It's a place with bright light, hot, dry air, and solid ground beneath his feet. His stomach growls loudly, and he realizes this isn't the time for sightseeing. He needs food. The problem is, looking at the buildings, he can't find anything edible. He walks through empty streets, wondering if there's any food around. In despair, he shouts at the sky, asking what kind of crazy planet this is. He finally understands why the previous owner died, because everything around is hard. Collapsing on the ground, he despairs that if this continues, he'll starve to death again. Suddenly hearing a sound, he spots an insect on the ground but thinks it's too small. With no other way to satisfy his hunger, he prepares to catch and eat a cockroach. But just as he's about to take a bite, he hears footsteps approaching. He's shocked to see a child from his own species eating something. He examines the boy and wonders what's in his mouth. That's definitely food. So he throws away the cockroach, thinking that snack looks delicious. Drooling with hunger, he debates whether to steal the young boy's food. Passing by a wanted poster, he starts following the boy. The boy suddenly stops, sensing someone behind him, and turns around suspiciously. When he turns, he comes face to face with Gilio, who's drooling and looking very suspicious. The boy gets scared and runs away, and Gilio shouts for him to wait. After the boy flees, he turns around and discovers something else nearby. He finds a plant in a pot and realizes it's ornamental and probably not edible. Thinking it's better than stealing, he devours the plant and thinks it's delicious. But after the first bite, he stops with an expression of complete confusion. Suddenly, he hears terrible screams from the direction the boy ran. He thinks it's strange that the boy suddenly screamed and decides to go see what's happening. The scene shifts to the boy, trembling with fear from head to toe. Before him appears a huge, bizarre creature, terrifying the boy. The monster stares at the boy with glowing eyes, letting out an extremely evil growl. The creature jumps down from a building and approaches the boy, who screams louder. With a mouth full of sharp teeth, the monster prepares to lunge at the child. It rushes forward and bites the boy's backpack, trapping him with no escape. The monster lifts him up, and the boy screams desperately. But he barely manages to break free and hits the ground hard. The monster chases the boy, who's running for his life, crushing cars along the way. Just as he's about to be eaten, the boy thinks this is the end and cries out for help. Gilio arrives, sees this scene, and recognizes it as a creature the size of a house. Electricity starts flowing from the creature, and he thinks it's strange to encounter something like this on an ordinary street. Shocked by the scene, he curses and complains that this planet is total garbage. But he pauses to think and figures maybe this could be a good thing. A memory surfaces in his body, and he remembers that you can eat birds and that they're tasty. He stares at the creature, thinking he's finally found some wildlife worth hunting. Filled with confidence, he's already making plans to dominate the planet as soon as he adapts to the magical energy. At that moment, he senses something strange in the air, a presence that immediately grabs his attention. Blue energy emanates from the monster, and he realizes it's heading toward him. Suddenly, he's engulfed by an extremely powerful magical aura. He feels this force flowing through every cell of his body and confirms it's the planet's energy. But the amount is so immense he can't handle it, and he's overwhelmed, dropping to his knees. He explains that on other planets it was like a bucket, but here it's like a swimming pool. Thrilled by the discovery, he shouts that this is the real El Dorado. What luck! Flashing a victorious smile, he thinks with this much mana, nothing is impossible. The young boy interrupts him, calling him Mr. or brother and begging for help. Gilio wonders why he's asking an alien for help and sighs annoyed. He wonders what would have happened if that alien weren't a great magician like himself. Pointing to the boy's drink, Gilio says he'll help if the boy hands over that snack. The monster prepares to attack while the boy freezes in pure terror. Crying, the boy agrees to the deal and pleads for help as fast as possible. The boy runs behind him, and Gilio calls him an idiot for turning his back on a predator. Then he turns around and tells the boy to step back, getting ready for battle. He claims he was once a master magician responsible for protecting entire planets. He brags that with just a flick of his finger, he could decompose the creature's skin and bones. Gilio prepares to attack, but when nothing happens, he goes quiet. He tries to make excuses, blaming the environment for making him nervous. While the boy screams in terror, Gilio laughs at the situation, thinking he's seen it all. Then he attempts his first spell, an explosion, but the result is a complete failure. When that doesn't work, he tries using water elements, but the magic fails again. He resorts to spiritual languages and even curses, but nothing works properly. Confused, he wonders what on earth is happening. Falling into despair, he finally realizes the problem. Having lost his power, he becomes prey, screaming for mercy and running for his life. Not looking where he's going, he dashes into the middle of the road and nearly gets hit by a car speeding by. Multiple cars swerve out of the way, honking their horns as the road descends into chaos. An angry driver curses at him, asking if he wants to get killed. Gilio realizes he needs to change direction because the monster will keep chasing him. The monster ignores the cars and simply stomps on them, completely crushing the vehicles. While the monster lets out a terrifying scream, Gilio runs without looking back. The monster charges toward Gilio at high speed. He keeps running down the main street, not really understanding what's happening. He wonders why the monster is only chasing him and feels his energy draining. Out of breath and having eaten nothing to recover his strength, he can barely breathe. Thinking he can't go on like this, he changes course again and jumps onto the sidewalk. The monster slams down hard on the exact spot where he was, creating a crater in the asphalt. The monster leaps powerfully and continues the chase, destroying the road. Then the beast leaps into the air once more, preparing a devastating aerial attack. He looks up in shock, wondering how on earth it can fly. Running desperately, he realizes he can't escape at this speed. He's going to get eaten. Suddenly, he feels a powerful shock inside his body, like something breaking. And he wonders what kind of disability this body had. The monster attacks again, and he screams for his life as he runs. But he eventually trips and at the moment he's almost eaten, closes his eyes. Then a strange red light appears, heading toward the giant bird. It strikes the monster directly in a massive explosion. The force of the attack sends the monster flying far away, destroying everything around it. Kirio lies on the ground, holding his head, completely unable to understand what just happened. Then red feathers begin to fall slowly, and he becomes even more confused. He approaches the fallen monster and loudly asks what just happened. Catching his breath, he wonders if the monster just ran into a wall on its own. But as he gets closer, he starts thinking maybe that monster was just a dumb chicken head. He mocks the creature for flying at a dangerous angle and crashing into a wall. But then his stomach growls loudly, reminding him his hunger hasn't gone away. He approaches the beast, wondering if that giant bird is edible. Smiling, he drools, figuring the amino acid structure should be compatible. Suddenly, he hears something and turns his head, sensing a new presence nearby. A woman in uniform appears out of nowhere and walks toward him, looking furious. Her eyes are wide with shock at the scene of destruction. Meanwhile, the young boy runs alongside a police officer, warning that the monster chased someone else. The woman quickens her pace, and the boy shouts that they need to hurry. She asks the officer if that's the last confirmed location, and he confirms it is. With a serious expression, she tells both of them to stay back because the situation is dangerous. She explains this monster is a beginner killer that used to live in portals. Its threat level was raised to urgent because it could attack at missile-like speeds. The woman is tense, knowing she needs to arrive before any fatal casualties occur. Finally reaching the scene, she spots the beast but then notices there's a person there. Her eyes widen in complete disbelief at what she's seeing. Kiryu is just staring at the fallen monster like it's nothing. The woman is shocked, wondering if he somehow killed that beast all by himself. At that moment, the police officer runs up with the boy and asks her what happened. Then the boy shouts to his hero, saying he finally brought the police. The officer approaches, completely relieved, and thanks Gilia for the incredible job he did. He explains they were dispatched because of the monster and asks if he's a hunter. Kiryu looks confused, having no idea what a hunter is. He realizes those memories didn't come with a body, so he can't remember. While the officer thanks him again, the woman finds it strange that he resolved everything too quickly. She's suspicious, doubting that he just happened to encounter the monster. It's explained that the monster's habitat is portals, and hunting it outside would be easier. But she notices it looks like he killed the monster with a frontal attack. Because of that, she wonders if this mysterious man is at least an urgent-level hunter. But Gilio ignores everything and points at the young boy, getting his attention with a warning. He looks at the boy seriously and reminds him of the promise they made earlier. With little choice, the boy reluctantly hands over the ice cream to Jiru. He takes a big bite, and his reaction is pure ecstasy, as if he's just tasted something divine. It's explained that since he evolved into a body that didn't need to eat, he forgot how good eating actually was. The woman is shocked, wondering if he just stole ice cream from a poor kid. Shamelessly, he even greets her while eating it. Then she formally introduces herself, saying her name is Cian Yun Yun from the Hunter Association. The woman extends her hand for a handshake but ends up shaking his sticky, dirty hand. She wipes her hand with a tissue and asks to see his hunter license. Confused by the request, he asks what on earth a hunter license is. Thinking quickly, he makes up an excuse, saying he doesn't have his license with him right now. She warns him that she'll check with the association to verify his identity. Then the woman asks what his name is, and he freezes, not knowing the body's name. His silence makes her suspicious, and she thinks this whole situation is very strange. Losing patience, the woman asks if he's at least registered as a hunter. Frustrated, she shouts that he's not registered and even used his powers on the street. She yells that this is illegal, but Gilio just looks clueless. While the boy takes his picture, he has no idea what she's talking about. Breaking out in a cold sweat, he gulps and realizes he might be seriously screwed. Then he changes his tune and says he is registered, of course, surprising the woman. Lying, he says he left his license at home but can quickly go get it if she waits. Gario turns his back and starts slowly walking away from the group. As he walks, he thinks to himself that he's never coming back to that alley again. The scene shifts to a messy apartment, and he starts searching for something. He finds a wallet and discovers important documents inside. From the ID, he learns his new name is Gilio and accepts his fate. But he can't find any license and wonders if this body really wasn't a hunter. He notices a full ashtray and is shocked by the number of cigarette butts there. Curious, he picks up the ashtray to get a closer look. Suddenly, a flash of memory flickers through his mind, triggering a very specific recollection. As the memory surfaces, he remembers that the owner of this body used to smoke frequently. Angry, he realizes the guy was an addict and smashes the ashtray. It's explained that for a magician who uses both internal and external energy, smoking is fatal. Then comes the question: what organ connects these two energies to create magic? The answer is the lungs, part of the respiratory system that acts as a medium. He finally understands the reason and shouts that this is why his magic wasn't working. Crumbling, he wonders what kind of psychopath would deliberately destroy their own lungs. He already knew humans were primitive, but he never imagined they were this crazy. Putting his hands on his head, he tries to calm down so he can think of a solution to the problem. He admits it's his fault for being blinded by magical power at the crucial moment, but he believes there must be a way to fix this body's issues. With a determined expression, he declares he won't give up even after going through all this. Now that he's decided to live in this new land, the best thing to do is make himself happy. The scene shifts to a police station, where an officer is scolding him for the commotion he caused. With a police station looking like a mess, he just hangs his head and apologizes. He never expected to get arrested and thinks he underestimated life on this strange planet. He laments ending up in jail just hours after arriving on Earth. 10 minutes later, when his criminal record comes back clean, the female officer is shocked. Outside the police station, Gilio could only think about one thing: hunger. He needs to study Earth, but first he has to deal with his body's lack of nourishment. Suddenly, a very good smell catches his attention, and he sniffs the air to find its source. Following the aroma, he discovers a restaurant selling something called pork soup. Without a second thought, he goes inside and orders food, and soon a very hot meal is placed on his table. Annoyed, he thinks if he'd known about this earlier, he wouldn't have gone through all that suffering. He picks up a spoon and tastes the broth, his eyes widening at the delicious flavor. The food is so hot it burns his mouth, but it's still amazing. Unable to stop himself, he devours the entire bowl, falling in love with the food. Everything was going smoothly, and he was finally happy, but the joy didn't last long. The problem comes when the restaurant owner accuses him of trying to eat and run without paying. The scene returns to the police station, where he swears he just forgot his money at home. Then the officer recognizes him and asks if he isn't that hunter from before. The officer, noting it's his first offense, lets him off with a warning, and he promises to come back later and pay. He asks if he can leave now, but the officer interrupts and tells him to wait a moment. The officer explains they couldn't find his registration information and asks if he awakened recently. Then he hands him a flyer for an awakening assessment center and says it's free. The officer says goodbye with a hint of envy, while Gilio doesn't understand what this awakening thing is. He wonders if this is a concept everyone on Earth knows about. Urged by the officer, he decides to check out the place, which seems to be nearby. The flyer shows a very large building with the name of the assessment center on the front. Wasting no time, he follows the map on the flyer and finally arrives in front of the building. But looking at the place, he feels a strange sensation, as if he already knows the center. A memory rises in his mind, and Gilio remembers coming here before. On the assessment document, he discovers a terrible result. The previous owner was F-class. Finally, the puzzle pieces click together, and he remembers that miserable F-class awakener. Just then, the woman he encountered before greets him with a hello. He responds somewhat awkwardly, and she asks what he's doing at the association. Seizing the opportunity, she extends her hand and asks to see his hunter license. He remembers promising to show a license that doesn't even exist and realizes he lied. But now that he's regained his memories, he nervously apologizes for what he said earlier. More calmly, he confesses that he actually doesn't have a hunter license. He explains that he did register, but he didn't like the result, so he never picked up the card. Holding up the document, he reveals the truth, saying he's F-class. The woman is shocked and asks how an F-class could defeat a beginner killer. He shrugs and says that dumb bird just smashed its head into a wall on its own. The two fall into a brief silence, and a very strange atmosphere hangs in the air. She thinks it's not impossible. Monsters really could accidentally kill themselves. But she remembers how calm he looked at the scene, as if he'd already killed hundreds of monsters. Suspicion grows stronger because people who hide their ranks usually do so for dangerous reasons. A chill runs down her spine, and she starts thinking he might be one of those types. Forcing a smile, she agrees he was lucky since those creatures are pretty dumb. He sees her smile and thinks he should learn human facial expressions. Then, to practice a new tactic, he moves his facial muscles, trying to imitate that smile. With a mechanical grin, he says that yes, he was really lucky. The woman is startled by his face and thinks there's definitely something wrong with this guy. To get away from there, she makes an excuse about forgetting to give him something and asks his name. He replies that his name is Gilio, and the woman prepares to hand him something. She takes a 50,000 won bill from her pocket and presses it into his hand. He marvels at this, thinking it's the best cultural custom in the entire universe. The woman explains that he left the monster's corpse behind, and this is his share of the profits. He does the math. Pork soup was 8,000 won. So with this money, he could buy 6 bowls. Surprised, he asks if the feathers were expensive, but she tells him the creature had a magic stone inside. Shocked to learn it was worth 2 million won, his share is only 50,000. She closes her eyes, ready to explain why the amount is so small. The woman reveals that he had to pay for all the damage he caused in the city. She also snaps at him, saying if someone hadn't run away, he wouldn't have had to pay anything. With nothing more to say, she says goodbye and leaves him there on the sidewalk. Alone now, he grips the bill tightly, still unable to believe he lost out on 2 million. He thinks that on his planet, that creature would have been nothing more than an annoying street fly. Smiling, he calculates that for 2 million won, he could buy 75 bowls of pork soup. To survive on Earth and live the happy life he's planned, he'll need money. And to live the perfect life he dreams of, he'll need much more cash. With an ambitious expression, he realizes the only way is to become a hunter. He remembers that the owner of this body was broke and penniless, which made his future bleak. But now that he's finally discovered a way to make money here, everything has changed. Even though he can't use magic right now, he decides to make a living by hunting. Just then, he overhears someone talking about a gate and wonders what that is. Whispers about a mysterious gate spread as a crowd forms around it. He learns these are gates, portals that appear randomly throughout the city. They serve as hunting grounds where Earth's hunters go to fight. Each is ranked according to the density of magical power contained inside. And the higher the gates rank, the more dangerous the monsters within. He analyzes the gate and notices the mana patterns it emits are quite unusual. Understanding there are monsters inside, he thinks it's worth checking out. But seeing too many people around, he figures it'll be hard to enter and wonders if there's another one nearby. Suddenly, he senses a presence in the air and wonders what on earth it is. Then a trail of magical energy appears, weaving through the streets near him. He follows the trail across the city, realizing it leads to another gate nearby. The trail takes him further out, revealing a gate in the middle of a more remote area. Exhausted, he arrives complaining that he almost died climbing that hill. He sees police tape and thinks Earthlings have a very strange sense of aesthetics. Standing before the gate, he wonders why they decorated the plants in such a way. The scene shows a group of hunters preparing to enter the portal ahead. A man reports on the phone that they've just arrived at the gate. The director asks if there are any civilians nearby to ensure area safety. The hunter says no, reporting that the police have done a good job with the cleanup. He complains that his urgency is driving him crazy and says they'll investigate immediately. After hanging up, he tells the team it's time to enter the portal. The hunter group enters a cave, and one of them immediately complains about a foul smell. The leader checks the meter and confirms the dungeon seems to be D rank. A member explains that when something goes wrong with a gate, the rank always jumps by 2 levels. With a focused expression, the leader says, "Let's finish quickly and grab a drink." A hunter wearing glasses suggests they slow down, confusing the team. He justifies his concern, finding it strange they haven't spotted a single monster yet. Then a colleague slaps his cheek, asking why rookies are always so scared. He also reminds them that Yoon-sung, the team's powerful A-rank hunter, is with them. But the cave begins to shake, and that hunter senses something is very wrong. Alone in the dungeon, Gilios starts walking through a very dark stone cave. He finds it strange he hasn't encountered any monsters and wonders if he misunderstood what gates are. Then he notices a blue magical trail appearing, the energy floating around, grabbing his attention. With gleaming eyes, he analyzes the mana, trying to figure out where it's coming from. He notices the energy is small and crude, but at the same time full of vitality. Following the trail, he thinks the mana might belong to a human nearby. This clue confirms someone was here before and that he's not alone. Suddenly, an explosion-like sound startles him, and he flinches. Hiding behind a rock, he peeks out to see what's causing the noise. Carefully looking down, he thinks to himself, "What on earth is that?" And down below, he sees a huge stone golem, a truly terrifying monster. The creature's hands were stained with blood, a sign that there had already been victims.